I found these green things in the drawer there. And I don't wanna wreck my table since you refinished it so nice.
Yeah, I didn't know what these were, but they're coasters.
Well, technically, I don't know if they really are coasters, but that's what we're using them for.
Okay. I'm good with that.
All right, we're rolling. All right, well, we're back from a little break, and I think this is a good time to talk about Midwest Prairies, which is a pretty exciting
Oh.
time in your lives.
Well, I happen to think there's one important episode of my life that happened while we owned those apartments.
Okay.
That was my back went out. And
That's
that was
right.
that was a big setback. It just about crippled me. It happened while we were moving a refrigerator, a brand new refrigerator, to an upper apartment
In
Yeah.
Palmyra.
in Palmyra. And I was on the bottom and I was lifting, my brother Rick was on the top. I had some moving straps that I had picked up that could go under there, so the guy in the top had something that he could pull on. But Rick said, oh, we don't need that. So I was on the bottom and he was on the top, but all he could do was kind of guide it. He couldn't really, there was nothing to pull. So the whole thing was on my back, going up this long stairs, and I heard it snap. And what I did is I crushed a vertebrae because I was bent over and putting all that weight on it. And I suffered for like 10 years. And then went to several doctors. They didn't want to operate because they said, well, it's really on a bad place. And you aren't really bad enough yet. Wait till you get worse, and then they come back.
Yeah, they said when you can't walk anymore.
And it got about to that point, and finally found a doctor that said, well, he said, yeah, we got two options. We got quick and easy, or the more dangerous one that's going to take you longer to heal, but it'll probably be better in the long run. And I said, well, do the big one. So I did, and they actually took some bone out of my leg,
Yep.
or hip or someplace, and put that in there. They fused the vertebrae together with that bone, and then they put 4 screws in, and hey, it worked great. It took me like 6 months to get healed up, but it really restored me.
Do you have any
I don't have-
lingering effects?
I don't have any back issues whatsoever. They told me I probably wouldn't be able to tie my shoes and bend over that much, but I don't have any trouble. Everything was restored like I was 20 years old again.
Yeah, I was watching him from the office on the Minnehaha house, and he was almost literally crawling up the driveway because he couldn't walk. And I said, that's when he got in the house, I said, this is enough. We have to find someone to help you.
Yeah.
And we fortunately were able to find a neurologist in Janesville and made an appointment, and he examined him, had an MRI, and then gave us the options.
It was a neurologist?
Yeah, he was a neurologist.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, glad that part has a happy ending.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And actually, I can't remember how you felt when we were driving to your wedding. He didn't want the surgery until after your wedding. So we had postponed that until October.
Yeah, I think I had it in October, so I had all winter to heal up and be ready to go to work in the spring again.
Yeah. I remember seeing you get out of the car after your long drive to Colorado when you came to my house, and it was you had difficulty just getting up out of the car and standing up. The long drive, but his back issues too.
Yeah, it was terrible. I was in agony for a long time. Okay, what's next?
Okay, so I love this Midwest Prairie story because this is the second half of your career was spent with Midwest Prairies, and it's a contrast, but it's also related to the first part of your career being a farmer. Being a farmer, you're looking at extracting resources from the land for the pretty much the sole benefit of humans. And then with Midwest Prairies, you worked with the land, but you did it with the goal of being a benefit for animals and nature, the ecosystem,
Yeah.
and also the enjoyment of humans.
Yeah, that's very true.
And it gives me goosebumps just kind of saying that and thinking about that. So why don't you talk about your transition? How did that come to be where you got into native land restoration?
Well, I actually have to thank you for that, because you worked for Al Haller, which is a neighbor just down the road when we lived on Minnehaha. And I remember you came home one day from working with him, helping him in his yard, and you said, you gotta meet this guy. He feeds his chipmunks out of his hand, he doesn't have a lawn, he's got just wildflowers, he lives on the lake, and he's a very interesting guy to talk to. So you introduced us to him, and we became good friends. And it wasn't long after that, maybe a year later, Stokely USA folded up, and would be out of a job. And I had mentioned that to Al at one of the visits. I said, Stokely's closing up and I'll be out of work. And he said, well, what would you like to do? And I said, I'd really like to work out on the land again. I said, I love wildlife, I love nature. But he said, well, Gary and Penny, that's his daughter and son-in-law, they're doctors in St. Louis, but they just bought 380 acres of wild land out by Milton. And they're looking for somebody to hire to restore it, to control invasive species and help heal the land. And why don't you give them a call? So he gave me their number, I gave him a call, we talked for a while on the phone, made arrangements. They drove all the way up from St. Louis up to Fort Atkinson for a weekend, and we visited, and they actually set us up in business. They gave us a free $10,000 loan to buy a cedar, a native prairie cedar, and then I started working for them.
Yeah, guaranteed salary.
We actually set up our own business called Midwest Prairies, but we contracted with them. So I was not their employee.
Mm-hmm.
And they were excellent people to work with. And they hooked me up with DNR staff and the Fish and Wildlife Service staff and other people that worked in that field. And of course, the old 4-H motto was learning by doing. And as the more I did, the more I learned. And then other people started contacting me that had land they wanted to restore. And so I started doing things for them, and pretty soon it just mushroomed. And it wasn't long. We had more work than I could handle. So I started hiring people.
Right, and you ended up with, how many employees did you have at your peak?
But at the peak, probably 10 employees, and that would be during the burning season when we had the most. Yeah, and we had quite an investment in equipment, with the biggest being that Rayco forestry mower. There was like a Caterpillar. On the front of it, it had this drum with tungsten carbide teeth on it, and you could drive it right into the buckthorn and it would just eat it for breakfast, grind it up and spit it out. Because buckthorn was a big problem in Wisconsin. It was destroying all the woods.
Were there any other native land restoration companies when you started Midwest Prairies?
At that time, no, because that's why Penny and Gary were talking to me, because they said they can't find anybody to do this kind of work. So really, I was on the cutting edge of it.
And today there are several, so you
Yeah,
were
quite a
a
few.
pioneer.
Yeah, the Midwest Prairies still continues on with the new owner, and there's other companies now that do it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's been several companies that have come and gone along the way that folded. But it takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and more hard work. Hard work is really the key, the key thing here.
What were the main types of native land restoration projects that you would do throughout the year?
Well, number one is controlling invasive species, and there's probably at least a dozen major invasive species. Anywhere from reed canary grass to buckthorn in the woods, and then there's the thistles and so many things. And so people that had woodland, privately owned woodland, like the Shacklefords, they could enroll in this woodland program with the government. And by enrolling with that program, the government would help them manage their woodland. But in the end, when they did a woodland harvest, say they logged it, they would have to pay a percentage of what they got for the logging back to the DNR for helping them get established. And because buckthorn was so thick in the woods, it was robbing the moisture and nutrients from the trees. So the oak trees and the hickory trees, the cherry trees all started getting stunted. It was just like weeds in the garden. You eliminate that competition, and then there's more nutrients and to go to the good trees.
So you worked with restoring woodlands to, typically oak savannas were a big part of southern Wisconsin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you converted several formerly, cornfields and alfalfa fields back to the tall grass prairie that would have been there a couple hundred years earlier,
That's
right?
true, because the FSA, Field Service, whatever, government program, farmers that had land along a river or a creek, and they were plowing right up to the creek, it was polluting the creek because farmers use a lot of herbicides and fertilizers. You get a heavy rain, it all goes into the creek, and it's making a mess all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. And so they could put in buffer strips, and that's where I'd come in. 100 feet from the creek, in a strip, put it into native grasses and wildflowers. So that would create wildlife habitat. It would,
You're on.
and it would also, because the roots go down 10, 15 feet. So as these roots go down, a third of them decay each year. And as they decay, they leave a channel in the soil for this moisture to go down rather than running off and going into the river. So it would capture these nutrients in the soil. It was a great program, and a lot of farmers enrolled in it.
And you worked with wetlands too.
Yeah, wetland restoration, because the wetlands are the sponge. You get these heavy rains, the water can go into the wetlands, soak in, the cattails help filter out all the chemicals.
And Mom, you were critical to the success of Midwest Prairies as well. You were the office manager. You typically stayed in the office and fielded phone calls, and you did invoicing. What are all the different responsibilities you
Well,
took
I
on?
watched Dad put together seed mixes, and it was taking forever to do. So when I was caught up with other stuff, I started entering a database into the computer in Excel with all the species out of like Prairie Moons or Agricul's catalogs, and, with their common name, Latin name, whether they were prairie or savanna types, the color of the blooms, when they would bloom. And so I had this whole spreadsheet set up. So then, of the database, then I set up another spreadsheet where I could put in like the grasses, the forbs, and I could put in how many ounces per acre we wanted for a spreadsheet, and it would automatically calculate a pull sheet. And I'd have to also have a column for a pure life seed, and I'd put in that percentage because we had to know that. So let's say my recipe called for 1 ounce of pure life seed, and I'd put in the percentage. If it was 100%, well then I only had to put in 1 ounce. If it was 50% PLS, then I'd have to put in a couple ounces.
Or 2 ounces.
Right, a couple.
Mm-hmm.
And so then if he would come back and say, well, Marty, you got too many oxide sunflower in this seed mix, let's cut it back. All I had to do is change the ounces per acre that I wanted, and it changed everything. So I would eventually know how many forbs per acre were going into this mix and how many grasses were going into the mix. So we could put together a seed mix in probably a half an hour to an hour.
What else did you help with?
Well,
Accounts receivable, accounts payable.
accounts receivable, accounts payable,
Fielding
payroll.
calls, customers that would call in.
yeah. And you made me forget what I was gonna say. Well, I'd send the payroll over to Luke, because that way I didn't have to keep up with the payroll laws. And, so I would give him the hours. Oh yeah, I set up a database for timesheets too, so the guys would turn in their hours. And I found I had to do it in military time. John, do you go lay down? I had to do it in military time because I couldn't figure out how to get the spreadsheet to calculate their hours without it being military time. So everybody, yeah, keep track of all that. Ryan was a big help in the business, and he would turn in the paperwork of how much time they spent on a job. I would turn around and create an invoice for it, put it on Dad's desk so he could look it over and make sure I didn't forget anything, and then I would either email the invoice to those that I knew could print it out and email it saves a lot of postage, and or mail the ones that didn't have the capabilities of email.
Right.
So our customers would include like the DNR, We Energies,
DOT.
the electric company in Milwaukee, and the DOT, Department of Transportation, because with a road that, say they put in a new highway or expanded a highway and they destroyed a wetland or a natural area, for every acre they destroyed, they had to establish 3 acres someplace else. So they had these banks that they called, like 400-acre banks, that different companies could buy into to do mitigation. And so we do that.
Right.
And like We Energies in Milwaukee, the electric company, they wanted to do a plant expansion, but they couldn't get the permit to do the plant expansion into a natural area unless they paid to restore, say, a wetland on another place.
And one exciting aspect of the business was burn season. This would come around in April, typically, right?
Yeah.
As soon as the prairie could sustain a fire, that was the official start of burn season. And I had the privilege of joining you for several years.
Yeah, you did.
On that.
Well, that's where I set up an access database for burning. And it would have the customer's name, it had all the burn information on that database, and I could print that off for him to look at and decide who he was gonna contact for burning.
Yeah, during the winter months, we would have to do a burn plan for every customer. And it was very complex. It had aerial view of the site, it had to identify all the hazards around it, all the buildings, neighboring
That's a lot of
buildings.
work.
All the phone numbers for all the neighbors, fire departments,
Police,
everybody had to be notified. And acceptable wind directions had to be identified. For instance, if there was a hospital downwind somewhere, you couldn't burn that direction, you had to wait till the wind is another direction. So there was a lot of planning that went into it. Not to mention the paperwork planning, but also establishing fire breaks. Because, well, you know, being on a burn crew, fire breaks are so essential for getting an efficient and a safe burn done.
Right. As I recall, you were pretty successful in not having any big disaster fires, getting out of control and causing any property damage.
Yeah, we lost a birdhouse one time, that was about the extent of it.
not in any
So-
fires that we started.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes landowners wanted to do their own burns and they didn't quite understand fire behavior and wind directions and fire breaks and things, and it can quickly get away on you.
I remember one place we went to, I think we were doing a burn in the morning, and then we break for lunch, and then at sometime in the afternoon, the landowner comes out and tries to hand us all beers to help us with the rest of the burn, and you were like, no, we can save that for later.
Yeah.
Was that John House?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I do have to say one other thing I did though, when you guys were out on a burn, I was constantly monitoring the weather reports. I had like 3 or 4 different weather places bookmarked on my computer, and I was always checking them. And if something, because I always printed off a wind
You were very good
thing
about that.
for
yeah.
you guys, and if something was going to change from what I sent out with whoever was the crew leader, I would call up and say, you've got a wind shift coming up at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The direction of the wind made a huge difference in how
It
you go
sure
about
did.
it.
Wind and humidity are key factors.
Mhm.
And I learned quickly that when the weather forecast says light and variable winds, that was a bad day to burn. Because light's okay, but variable means it would blow this way for a while, and then 15 minutes later it would switch and it would blow that way for a while. And like your fire, okay, so say the wind's coming in this way, and you start your back burn here and you burn into the wind, everything's going nice and slow, and that's good. All at once the wind shifts and it goes that way. Now your fire is racing to the other end, but you don't have that secured yet. You just got a small fire break.
Mhm.
Right, yeah.
The other thing, well, we taught a burn class as well to landowners who wanted to do their own burning. It was a non-certified class because we weren't qualified to teach a certified burn class. So we just had kind of a small thing. We've handed out, I put together lots of paperwork to give people, and that's how we got our prairie burned at Midwest Prairies.
Yeah, prairie at home. We
Yeah.
always burned that at the end of the class.
Yeah.
So they could see hands-on. Yeah.
Yeah, you ended up converting almost the entire grassy area of the Vinnie Howe property to prairie over the years as you were experimenting with different things and playing with different seed mixes.
Oh, yeah.
And then you bought that new land over by Milton where you built a house and you put that all into prairie as well.
Yeah, that was 5.5 acres, and we didn't have a lawn there at all. We put the house on a little knoll in the middle of that 5.5 acres, and everything was short grass prairie right around the house, and then tall grass prairie beyond that. Down in the front is more like a little wetland. There was a little pond there. It was really nice because it had several different ecotypes there.
But now it's a lot of lawn again.
Well, the new owner, yeah.
Mhm. What were some of your favorite aspects to running Midwest Prairies?
Mine was being able to, if I had free time, I could just get up and go shopping if I wanted to, or, you know, whatever. In fact, I ended up with enough free time. Uncle Josh asked me to come back and help out with inputting more information into the computer for a new company they had bought. And it was supposed to be a couple month project, and I ended up staying on for about 3 years. They liked me.
I enjoyed the challenges. There's a lot of challenges. The biggest challenge is controlling invasive species. When you seed a prairie, you know, these are all perennial plants. You're starting from seed. So it takes 3 to 5 years for those to get established. While your weeds are like, you know, they grow like weeds. They take over the first couple years, and it's like the customer's like, you planted nothing but weeds, you know, what are you doing? And I tell them ahead of time. I said, it's gonna take time, 3 to 5 years. But they seem to forget that. I've gotta go back and re-educate them. Tell them, just take a vacation, just don't worry about it.
In those early years, what were some of the techniques you would use that you thought, like, this might be a good way to control invasive weeds, and it just didn't really work at all, or it just didn't work like you hoped it would?
Well, that's a very good question. You go in and you spray it with Roundup, you kill all the weeds. Oh boy, you got a clean slate. There's no weeds there anymore. You go in and seed it, and the first thing that comes up is more weeds. What I didn't realize is there's a bank of weed seeds in the soil, and you can't kill those until they germinate. And not all weed seeds germinate at the same time. They all take turns, you know. So a field that has a bad history of weeds, and I'm saying an abandoned field that's grown up in weeds and thistles and burdocks and things, you might have to take 2 years and spray it 3 times a year to flush out all those weeds. And then in between spraying, you go through with a disc and disturb the soil a little bit on the surface, the top 2 inches, because that's where the weed seeds are. By disturbing it, it stimulates the weed seeds to grow. And then once they start growing, you can kill them. Kill them with Roundup or more tillage. And once you can get, well, you never know how many weed seeds are left. But say the last time you go in and till it and spray it, and you only see maybe in a square foot, maybe you see 5 or 6 weeds growing, okay, that's pretty good. Then your prairie would have a chance to get established.
Right. Are there any other, really fun aspects to the job before I ask you what parts were really hard?
We made a lot of friends that we still have today. People that are like-minded like we are, that enjoy nature, that understand that, it takes a while to work with things in nature. It's important to bring it back.
Yeah.
And the tough thing was, probably the most stressful, exciting and stressful, was the bird season.
Yeah. Rain was always a factor, and you try to plan these things, but you often had to call them off at the last minute.
Yeah. So we would generally schedule burning 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, but we left Saturday and Sunday open for makeup days. And that kind of worked out pretty good. In the end, we burned, 40, 50 burn sites in the springtime usually.
Yeah. I don't have access to those records anymore. I deleted everything, but.
And burn season would generally last until things greened up so much it wouldn't burn again. So
Right.
That's the nature of southern Wisconsin, is that most of the year things just don't burn. You got this one window, about 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's right. And then we're done with burning, put all the burn equipment away, and then we usually start
Spraying.
seeding prairies, or actually I like to do most of the prairie seeding in the fall. It seems like we had better results with fall seeding than spring seeding, because we could just scatter it. We had this whirly seeder. I had a drill seeder, but that was only like 5, 6 feet wide. But I had a whirly seeder that would just fling the seeds out, and that would cover like 20 feet at a time. And it would just scatter the seeds on top of the ground. And through the winter, with the snow and freezing and thawing of the ground would move and shift, the seeds would settle in at just the right depth. And if we think about it, that's how nature seeds. The seeds drop out in the fall, they lay on top of the ground, and the frost takes it in. And then in the spring, when things warm up and there's moisture, they grow.
One potential danger that we had, and I think you'll remember now that I say it, is we were burning at Peter Layton's farm, and
Oh, the kids running out.
and I was standing on the bed of one of the gators because it was a hill, and it went down, so the people on the one side of the field couldn't see to the other side. And when I was standing on the gator observing, all of a sudden I saw one of Peter Layton's young children in the middle of the field, and they were about ready to light the head fire, which would have put that kid in danger. And so I started hollering at the people at the head fire not to do it. Then I started heading out to the field, and I told him, I can't remember his name anymore, but I said, "You've got to get out of there." And he kept saying, "My dad, if this is my dad's land and I can be here." I says, "No, you can't. We're lighting a fire."
Fire's coming.
Finally, he just was obstinate, but finally got him out of there.
Did you ever have any injuries where you had to work if I file a workers' comp claim for Midwest Prairies? Any of your employees?
Ryan,
I don't think he got injured. He tipped over the gator at one point.
with chemical in it,
Yeah,
we got investigated.
there was a big chemical spill, and that's another story. We had to get that all cleaned up. I had to actually hire people to come in with diggers and dig all the dirt out that was contaminated, and they kept testing it until it was clean. But he didn't get hurt in that. I think he got something in his eye once. Chris Kaplan we had to take to the doctor once. He got a little thistle or something in his eye, remember? But nothing serious.
Yeah, good.
But that was always a big concern. I know a guy from a competing business. They had somebody killed. They had a bobcat, and when you sit on that seat, you've got this roll bar you put down, and that engages everything. So as soon as you flip it up, everything stops. The bucket won't come down. Well, somehow they disconnected that, or it malfunctioned, and he was getting out, and this bucket came down on him and crushed him.
There was another guy, wasn't he trying to do a prescribed burn himself or something, and he was wearing synthetic clothing?
Oh, yeah, that, it wasn't related to us. That was actually
Right, but not, yeah.
happened before we started Midwest Prairies. A guy in Edgerton was burning some leaves in his yard. And some leaves he was wearing synthetic trousers, and some leaves were burning right around his feet, and they lit up his trousers, and it went right up his trousers, and I don't know if he had a synthetic jacket on, but anyway, he ended up dying.
Oh.
Just from burning leaves in the yard.
So when we taught our burn class, nobody was allowed to wear anything synthetic.
Yeah.
Women
In fact, we did a demonstration. I had old synthetic trousers or something.
Oh, I gave you one of my synthetic old blouses.
Yeah, we had a blue jeans that was like cotton denim, and then we had synthetic, and with some straw around them, and we lit one up and we lit the other up and showed them the difference. That's why you don't wear synthetics.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would tell the women who were in the class, I'd say, no underwire bras, no jewelry. I mean, you think about wearing a necklace and you're that close to the heat, it burns.
Yeah.
The thing about synthetics is it melts
Go
to your
lay down.
body.
Go on, go lay
And
down.
then if you wanna like scrape that fire off, somebody
Go lay
wants to
down.
help you, then it sticks to your hand. Now your hand is burning.
Okay. Any other stories about work life from your various jobs over the years that you want to talk about?
I couldn't have done it without Marty, I'll tell you that.
And I wouldn't have done it without you.
Yeah, I mean, managing the office and all the paperwork is just as important as what happens in the field.
Okay. Well, I think on that note, let's take another quick break
Okay,
and then we'll continue.
okay.
Ron,
Hmm?
she needs somebody to play with her.
Should I take her outside for a minute?
Yeah, take her outside because she's getting obnoxious, and I think it's usually your MAIL time.
Started.
Too bad you don't have a remote start.
Okay. All right, well, we're back from another quick little break. We fed the dog, and did you throw the ball a little bit for Johnny? Give her
Yeah.
a little exercise?
Yeah, did that.
She gets quite demanding.
Yeah, she likes to play a little.
I don't know how she got so spoiled.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get back into it. Let's talk about married life. So, how many years has it been now that you have been married?
Do you remember?
52?
No.
53.
53 years.
Yeah.
And you've known each other for, what, at least 60 maybe?
Since we were like, I was 10 years old.
Maybe
or
when,
so.
yeah, when I was, yeah.
Yeah. What's the secret?
Oh, well,
Counseling.
I say a lot of I'm sorry's.
Oh.
But it actually gets better. The longer we were married, I think the better it got. And especially since we're retired, we've got more time, a little more relaxed, less pressures.
Yeah.
And I think we always try to cater to each other. If I get up for something out of my chair, I'll ask her if she needs anything while I'm up.
Vice
And
versa.
she does vice versa, and we're always kind of serving each other.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So, Dad, how would you describe Mom if you were describing her to someone?
She's got a good sense of humor, and she's
Troublemaker.
she's caring and thoughtful and helpful, and but she's scared of heights, and she's getting worse.
Terrifying.
Anything beyond the bottom step ladder, it's bad bottom step. Anything higher than that is bad. But she's a good cook.
Yeah, getting lazy.
But when you try, you do good. Yeah. And she
Yeah.
was very helpful, like I said, for the business. The business was my dream. She really didn't want to do a business, but I wanted to, and she helped me out with that. Her skills. You know, you gave me a book once too about running a business is like riding a horse. In a horse race, the jockey and the horse has to work together. They both have to be in harmony, and then they win the race. And it's just like, I'm the jockey, she's the horse.
Hey. Quit riding me. Yeah. And Dad is kind and loving and honest, and I think over the years we've gotten to know each other's idiosyncrasies better.
You have inside jokes you use with each other that no one else would get?
And I call him my stud muffin.
Yeah. Yeah, we get to know each other like ourselves, I think. We know what would set them off, we know what would make them happy.
So I imagine that's one of the great things about being married, because that's one of the questions, is what's great about being married is
Yeah.
you know what works and doesn't work for each other.
Yeah.
You know each other so well.
Mm-hmm. And I know one of your questions on the list, I think right after this, is what's harder about being married a long time?
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing harder, everything gets softer.
Oh, jeez. Man, they have meds for that, I hear.
Yeah, they don't always work.
Yeah, but really, there's really nothing harder. Well, you know, health issues, but that's something that would happen if we're married or not, I think. And we just got minor, it seems like every week or every month there's a different minor health issue. that
Yeah, like
pops
my
up.
trigger thumb.
But you don't always see eye to eye on certain things.
No, and we tell each
How
other.
do you deal with that?
Well, there was a period in time where it was really rough, you know, when you wanted to move to the mountains.
Mhm. And you didn't want
You know,
to.
when we were just getting Midwest Prairie started. And so we actually built a couple of homes in the mountains up there by
Buena Vista.
Buena Vista, yeah. So, and then that guy, he went belly up and he stuck us for.
Well, no, we got our money back.
Yeah, okay.
It was a lot of stress, but we
Yeah.
got our money back.
For 2 years, it was tied up in the bankruptcy courts. So that was.
But because I had kept so much paperwork and emails and everything, that's how we got it back.
Yeah,
And you didn't really help me, I just did it on my own.
yeah, I know. Well, I was busy with the business, I didn't have time.
So I was,
But we're glad we're not living in the mountains, because it snows up there all the time, and you get a lot of storms, and we got a good place here, we're happy here.
And you can see the mountains by going out in.
yeah, like I just walked to the driveway.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, and if we wanna take a drive, we can be in the mountains in an hour or less.
right.
Yeah.
I imagine that you've worked out certain roles and duties that each of you are in charge of around the house for household chores. Who does most of the cooking? I guess it's you, Mom?
Well, ever since we moved out here in 2015, Dad's wanted to learn how to cook more. He's got more time now. So like we made his birthday cake together. And he's been learning how to make gravy and just different things. He'll ask me where the recipe for this is or that.
Yeah, I'll tell her, if she says she wants to make something, I said, well, I wanna do it, you know, help me through it, so I can learn these things.
And I think I've always been attuned to our vehicles, like if I'd hear a noise or something, or if the low pressure light comes on for my tires, I tell him about it and then he checks it out. I think we're both pretty much attuned to things.
So in a lot of ways, I think the divvying up of job responsibilities on the house is fairly traditional, where if something needs to be fixed, it typically goes to you, and you keep the house orderly. And who does most of the vacuuming?
I think you do more of it now.
I'll vacuum maybe twice a week. It's easy.
I mean,
with central vac, it's so easy.
since I used to do almost all of it, but since we've been out here and we're retired, he does a lot.
Who cleans the toilets and the bathrooms?
Yeah, she does that. I make breakfast every morning.
You do sometimes though.
But yeah, once in a while I'll clean the toilets. But I cleaned all the baseboards this fall.
Did you get done?
I went around the house. Remember, it took me about a week. I did
Well,
a
I
couple
was
rooms
going to
every day.
hire it done because I don't do well on my knees that well anymore. So I was gonna hire it done, but then he didn't wanna pay the money, so he did it.
I said, well, I can do that.
So,
What do you like to cook for breakfast, Dad?
Oh, I like corned beef hash and fried eggs,
dog
but
food.
she won't eat that. But
Smells like dog food.
for her, I'll usually make 2 sausages and 7 tater tots. Those are her favorites. Oh,
I don't like cereal. I've never eaten a bowl of cereal.
scrambled eggs and bacon,
Pancakes, French toast.
Mhm.
So those are kind of 3 separate breakfast items throughout the week. Are those pretty commonly repeated
Mhm.
every week?
Yeah, and of course my Wheaties, I'll have that once or twice a week.
Mhm. If you're having your Wheaties, then what is she eating?
A piece of toast.
Peanut butter toast or jelly toast.
Mm-hmm.
We don't eat as much anymore since we're retired.
Do you eat out more, or do you order? Let me ask you this: do you order delivery? Do they ever deliver food to your
Never.
house?
No, because I'm not too cheap to pay the tip.
But you go to restaurants and tip them then.
Yeah,
No.
but that's getting out of the house at least. And then if you order in, then you got dishes you got to clean up. Of course, the dishwasher does that. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we eat out maybe
we eat a lot of.
2 or 3 times a week. We
Yeah.
eat out,
I'd say at least 3.
but not real expensive.
No, we're coupon eaters.
Yeah,
What kind of restaurants do you go to?
like Culver's and, what's that one in Longmont?
I got a sneeze coming in.
Goodfellas Family Restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me.
Mhm.
Sometimes we go to Carl's Jr.
Yeah, if we get coupons, we do a lot of coupon eating. Tonight.
There's probably another one in there.
When do you get
Sometimes,
the coupons in the mail?
yeah.
Mhm.
And then we pick them out. And sometimes Brighton for Chinese. I don't like the Chinese restaurants here.
And that Brighton, if you're on the way to the airport or back, that's
Yeah.
kind of a go-to stop for you, isn't it?
That's the one, yeah,
Yeah.
about halfway there to the airport.
Yeah. And let's see. And then we went to Bulagavi, but then we had a coupon and somebody else bought our lunch.
Oh,
So,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah. Because somebody had a birthday last week.
Yeah, thank you.
so yeah, I think we're pretty frugal. Even when we eat out, I still think we do. We don't eat out extravagantly.
No. A lot of times we'll actually share a meal.
Oh yeah, sometimes when we go to Goodfellows, we'll buy
Club
a
sandwich.
club sandwich, and
We
2
share.
halves is fine for me and him. And
Mhm.
Now, how much alcohol do you folks drink?
Not much. I'll have a beer maybe once or twice a month. And we've got a little wine sometimes. Of course, at Christmas time, I like this eggnog with a little Jack Daniel's honey, Tennessee honey.
Mm-hmm.
Usually if only if friends come over.
I beg to differ.
Oh, okay, maybe have a- and then when friends don't come over.
Mom, do you imbibe at all? I know you have wine every once in a while.
Every
for
now and
special
then, but-
occasions.
And we've got Coors beer in the fridge right now. I like the Spotted Cow from Wisconsin, but that's gone. Dad,
Yeah,
do-
your thing is not so much alcohol, Diet Coke, right?
I'm a Diet Coke.
Yeah.
She's a Diet Coke alcoholic.
My blood is probably Diet Coke.
So, yeah, what's your how many of those you drink in a day?
Right now I'm down to 2.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to limit myself. But I'll fill in with some Crystal Light here and there. I'll drink a beer once in a while, maybe more when we're traveling, I think, and we've had a long day of driving. When we get set up somewhere, you and I will both have a beer.
Mhm.
Are there, you've probably seen a lot of fad diets come and go over the years. Have you changed how you eat over the years? Try, Mediterranean diet or the keto diet or whatever, less of this, more of that.
Well, maybe we tried it for a little bit, but.
We go back to our old habits.
Yeah.
I know how to cook that way without having to dig up recipes.
So in a lot of ways, you're eating the same things that you ate 50, 40 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty.
Like I said, I got a roast beef and mashed potatoes for supper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And last week we stopped at the Mexican butcher shop in Longmont and we picked up pork shanks.
Yeah, that's what you and Aleka are gonna get stuck eating next time you come here.
Pork shanks and cabbage. You think she'll like it?
Yeah, I think so.
You think her kids will like
Oh,
it?
no, they're not gonna eat anything.
Probably not.
Maybe I'll throw some hot dogs on for them.
Okay. What else about married life? Anything else to talk about there?
We've had a good life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there was some hard spots.
Mhm.
We worked through them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move on then to religion and politics.
Oh, we're not supposed to talk religion and politics.
Yeah,
But I think that's a big mistake. Society says you're not supposed to talk. But especially in a democracy, I think we really need to talk about politics because it's of the people, by the people, and for the people. If people don't talk about it, how can we agree on things?
yeah, but people that have opposing views to how we think feel they're being attacked.
I can't help the way you feel.
I know.
Well, let's back up a little bit. Both of you were raised in an environment where you went to church every Sunday, right?
Mhm.
I know you for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You went to church, but your dad didn't go to church,
No,
right?
he wasn't to my knowledge, he was not a believer.
Okay, so your mom took you
Mhm.
and your brothers to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
For you, it was Wisconsin Evangelical Lutheran Synod, the Wells.
Right?
And
What
me.
was- No, you're both Wells growing up. Okay, and you're not Wells today, so something changed.
Yeah.
And tell us that journey. What?
I think,
Well, I never was really a strong religious person. I think I kind of just went along with it through the motions.
yeah, me too.
And I felt if I didn't go to church, I'd feel guilty. Coming out of church, it's like, got that over for another week.
Well, and I think part of the reason we sent them, Roger and John, to parochial school was so we didn't have to sit through Sunday school. Be at church that extra time.
Oh, yeah.
That was my reasoning anyhow. But I remember when you moved out here, and I don't remember which house it was, but you had some different books on about what the church doesn't want you to know, and on free thoughts I think you had out, and we would read them,
And Losing Faith in Faith
yeah.
by Barker?
Dan Barker.
Dan Barker.
Yeah.
Somehow we ended up with 2 copies of that, and I don't know
Yeah.
how.
Well, he signed a copy for us.
I know, but how did we end up with a second copy?
Well, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, we visited the Free Thought Hall
Mhm.
in Madison.
Yeah. So you're referring to the journey I went through
Yes.
in college,
Yeah.
where I entered college as a devout Christian and encountered some people who challenged that. And in my attempt to defend my Christianity, I started doing research. And the more research I did, the harder it got to defend my own position. And by the time I left college, I ended up being an atheist. And so some of that, what I went through, it touched your lives too,
Mhm.
because I would talk about it occasionally,
Yeah.
and books I was reading. You were just talking about books that you had in.
What we would do a lot of times is, I bought that book, the book The Church Doesn't Want You to Read or something like that, and I had my Bible here and that book here, and I was comparing what that book said, to verify that book, being the one the church didn't want you to read, was correct. And I remember one of the things that stood out to me is the 2 genealogies of Jesus. And then they were both from the one side, I can't remember if mother's side or whatever, or father's, but they didn't make sense.
Right, they couldn't both be true because they were
Right.
different.
Mm-hmm. And so we started, reading more things like that and comparing, and talking snakes didn't make sense to me, and talking donkeys and
Well, the big thing for me is, it doesn't really matter if there is a God or there isn't a God. But I don't see where God actually does anything for me that I can count on. If God were a contractor, I'd be so disappointed, I'd turn him into BBB right away. Because, ask him for things, and the Bible says, you do this and this and this, and God will be there for you. He never talks to me. I've prayed to him for 50 years. He never talked to me and never helped me make decisions. It all had to come from within, from research I made or conversations I've had with her about choices to make, what to do, like job changes or whatever.
and we made them without praying on them.
Yeah. Well, when I was religious, I would pray on it, but it didn't really seem to help.
Yeah.
And when I had my back issues, I prayed for 10 years, and we even went to prayer chains at church on a Wednesday night. And the whole congregation was praying for me, and still, it didn't heal.
But some people would say it's because God and came through us to go to that new doctor. So God didn't tell you to go to that doctor, but somehow he must have enlightened us, is what we've been hearing.
Hmm. If I hadn't gone through that journey and I stayed a devout Christian, how do you think you'd be these days?
I think we were moving away
Well,
from Christianity.
I'd probably still be a loose Christian, because it's hard to make that leap away from
Without support.
Christianity. It's like feeling like all at once, if you don't believe in God, it's like, oh my God, I'm all alone in this world. Who's going to help me through it? And then I realized I've been going through it all by myself anyway.
But even a lot of our family has turned against us because of
We're black sheep.
we're black sheep.
Yeah. Virtually all of your relatives are still practicing the same Christianity
Yeah.
they were taught when they were, raised
Mhm.
decades ago.
Yeah. And yet, early on, when I was still a believer, and I like talked to my brother Rick about certain things about religion, is like, and he even had doubts at that time. But since then, they seem to have really dug in their heels.
Is that a primary reason you think for the challenges you have with your brother? You don't talk these days.
Yeah. Well, I'm free to talk to him. I call him every year for his birthday or send him a card, but I never hear back from him. So it's just one-sided. I call him, but he never answers, and he doesn't call back. I'll leave a message, get nothing.
Well, and lately you and Laura have been going at it.
I don't know if you saw Facebook,
It wasn't, that part wasn't on Facebook.
but it started on Facebook.
Yeah. But Laura called him deranged.
I read the biography of Donald Trump, and in there, it's written by Mary Trump, his cousin.
Mm-hmm.
She explains his whole childhood. And he was never allowed to fail at anything. He didn't really play sports, so he never lost, had the experience of losing. And when he started doing things in business, if he failed, his dad would bail him out, so he never lost. And I think that's carried him through his whole life. So he still can't accept losing. But now there's nobody to bail him out.
And so that was part of the conversation you had with Laura.
Yeah, well, see,
Diana posted
Diana made a post about, how's that word
weak
again?
men and strong men. And
Yeah, the strong men create weak men, and then weak men create strong men. And so I commented, yeah, that's a really good point. I never saw that before, Diana, but that really makes a lot of sense. And a case in point is Donald Trump. When he was growing up, his father was very strong, but he kept bailing out Donald, and Donald became very weak, and he could not carry himself through to accomplish anything. And when he failed, his father would bail him out, so he never had a chance to be
That
successful
set
on his
off
own.
a firestorm.
And oh boy, that's when the shit hit the fan. That I was lying, I was making up crap and everything, and
You were spewing hatred.
doing hatred, and I was just revealing what I read in that book.
Yeah, you've been involved in a lot of conversations, like on Facebook and probably through personal emails with various people, where you've been, sharing your perspective with people who don't share that same perspective, and minds generally don't get changed, do they?
Except for David and Dwight Schwartz. Dwight has voted for Trump for the last 2 years, but he said, no, because I talked to him about things that Trump has done and how he grew up as a spoiled brat. And Dwight keeps talking about this younger generation, they're all spoiled brats. They don't know how to do nothing because they didn't grow up on a farm and learn how to work. They don't have work ethics or nothing. And I said, oh, yeah, that sounds like Donald Trump, doesn't it? I asked him a couple of weeks ago, are you going to vote for Donald Trump again? Looks like he's going to be on the ballot. He said, no, I'm not going to vote for him again.
You're, speaking of politics, I recall you saying that you had voted for Ronald Reagan back in the 80s. Were you generally, did you consider yourself a Republican back then? And what do you consider yourself today?
Yeah, I think I was more Republican that day, but I wasn't staunch one way or the other. I kind of voted for the man that I liked.
I remember voting for the man.
But I guess a turning point is W. Bush, when he had the Iraq invasion. 4 months into it, he got on this battleship with a big sign that said "Mission Accomplished," and it wasn't accomplished. It went on for almost 20 years yet, and Bin Laden wasn't even there. Obama got him in, what country was that? Some years later.
Pakistan.
Pakistan. And I don't like the strategy the Republicans had about turning their back on people that needed help, the poor people basically, and they were willing to help babies, until they're born, and after they're born, they kind of drop the ball and don't care if they get educated or fed or anything like that.
Well, and a couple of our relatives don't believe in helping people, like our help center and that. They get a job. And some people can't.
Right. Do you think veering away from Christianity is related to becoming more liberal in your beliefs?
Yes.
Because when we went to church, we were, gay people and anybody like that, you don't hang out with anybody like that. You just stay away from them. They're gonna go to hell.
Well, one thing I didn't like about the Christian church, the Wells Synod, is they didn't want you to expand your mind and look at the bigger picture of things, like even consider other religions or anything. It's just, they had the right idea and that was it. And then when we joined the UU church, they were open to considering other religions, and if you want to be another religion and still come to our church, that's fine.
We had some people that were of the Catholic faith that went to the Catholic church sometimes and then came to our church.
Yeah, or even some Lutherans in that.
Yeah. And I think I really lost it for the Lutheran church when Jenny was part of that religious group.
The singing group.
Yeah.
Your niece?
Yeah, our niece. And they wanted to do as much as our church would allow. Like they would do the sermons or just sing, whatever the church would allow. And our pastor wouldn't allow it. And we talked to him about it, and he says, well, we don't know what they believe. And I says, but they're Christian.
And what difference does it make what they believe?
And then Pastor Zarling came to the house one time, and we were questioning back then. And he told me, he thought we were stupid because he started drawing pictures of churches on a piece of paper, and he wrote wells on one and Catholic and whatever. And eventually asked him, I said, so you're telling me that only Wisconsin Synod Lutherans are going to heaven? Well, there might be some from other faiths, depending on how they were raised. That was the end for me.
And for me, as far as life after death goes, I think I will return to the state that I was in before I was born. And I'm fine with that. That's the only thing that really makes sense.
I'm comfortable with that. Your existence will be extinguished.
Yeah. I mean, everything in nature goes in a cycle, a circle. It restores itself by breaking down and becoming nutrients or something else to take it up in a new life.
When you went from, when you were younger and you believed that heaven was a real thing and heaven is a place you go to when you die and that will be eternal happiness, when you go from that to when I die, I'll cease to exist, for me, that was, like, that sucked. Like, I was not at all happy about that. It's not a conclusion that I wished for, but I didn't have a choice because I had to feel like I needed to believe what was true, not what I wanted to believe. But I still would not have picked that at all. And I still think that is a pretty sucky alternative to heaven.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why religion is successful, because they give you that, the life after death, and be rejoined with all your relatives. And most people want that more than anything else at the end of their life.
Well, even your pets are going to join you in heaven now. When Linda told me, when one of my dogs died, dogs don't have a soul, they don't go to heaven. Now all of a sudden, after she had lost her dog, now it's going to be in heaven with her.
Yeah. Religion does change over the years. Reading the Little House books, when they went to church on Sunday, the church would last like 2 hours. And when they got home, they couldn't laugh, they couldn't smile, they couldn't have a light conversation. If they talked about anything, it had to be just religious. If they read any book, it could only be like the Bible or a religious book. That's the way Sundays were spent. They couldn't play the organ or piano, no fun, couldn't play outside. But religions have changed over the years to meet people, to keep them coming in.
Yeah. Mom, what do you think will happen after you die?
Drop my ashes on a mountain somewhere. I don't think anything's going to happen. Although one of your questions, if I'm going to be reincarnated, I want to be reincarnated as a rich person so that I can help people.
That's noble. So I have here favorite president and least favorite president. You want to tackle that?
Yeah, I wrote some down here. My favorite president, of course, George Washington, the father of our country, and Roosevelt, and Obama. And my least favorite, Andrew Jackson, because he was behind the Trail of Tears. He was pretty cruel that way. And of course, W. Bush, starting the Iraq War invasion. It was a waste of blood and money. And now Trump.
You went into more than I did. I just said my favorite was Barack Obama and my least favorite was Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how anyone can think that Trump is a Christian after the way he's treated women, badmouth people, calling people names. I can't handle that.
And encouraging violence.
Yeah.
Convicted sex offender now.
It's really remarkable seeing the level of support he continues to have.
Yeah, especially by the religious right.
Yeah.
And he's not even religious.
Yeah. Right. And most people watching this video will know whether he won the 2024 election or not, but we don't know.
Oh, here we
and
go.
The polls are looking neck and neck, and in many cases, it looks like he might win the 2024 election.
And if he doesn't win, there'll probably be a big riot.
But
Because look what happened last time.
are you willing to move to Canada with us if he wins?
Maybe Mexico. The winters are a little nicer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I trust Mexico.
Go to Venezuela.
Yeah, oh gosh.
Well, do you have anything else you want to talk about with the religion and politics section?
Only that I'm probably more content where I'm at now with religion than I ever have been in my life before.
I agree.
Because as a Christian, you know, if God didn't answer your prayer, it's because, well, you didn't have enough faith. You didn't pray strong enough or something. There was always an excuse. So, in the same token, if my faith isn't strong enough to answer a prayer, is it strong enough to get into heaven? No, I may not make it. No, then I go to the other place, hell. You know, and that's really scary. Because I know how hot fire can be. But now, I'm confident knowing I'm going to return to the state I was before I was born. Everything in nature points to that direction.
And staying on that a little bit, one of your last questions were about what's gonna be on our tombstone. We're not gonna have one, we're both gonna be cremated, but if you want one, then surprise us.
I don't want a tombstone taking up any space.
Right.
Well, what if we just had I don't know, an inscription somewhere, on the urn that's on the shelf or something like
Sure,
that? What could it say? What would be a good way to sum up your lives?
Well, to sum up the lives, a life well lived.
That sounds good.
You know, in a couple generations, nobody's going to remember us anyway. Like
Yeah.
my great grandparents, never met them, don't know anything about them, just a name on a tombstone. And the generation before that, I don't even know that. You know?
Yeah.
Why worry about it?
I think it's more important to those who survive us.
And it's more important to live the good life now.
Yep.
With those that we love.
Yep.
Well, I think that's a nice place to take a break here.
Yeah. Okay.
Are the phones being good so far?
Yeah.
What
But
did
I
you
didn't-
write?
Well, I didn't get there yet, but we can just ad-lib that.
Okay, well, I started those two, and I'm going to start this one. Oh, shoot. And I'm going to have to figure out how to get the files off of your phone, which I won't have time for now. But I'll figure it out.
We'll talk faster.
Okay, well, after another quick break.
Do you want to go down to the happiest moments of your life?
So, yeah, we have kind of a somewhat random set of questions to go through. And the suggestion was, let's talk about the happiest moments of your life. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
easy for me. The happiest moment of my life is when I married Marti.
And that was one of mine too, and having you and John.
And one of my saddest moments, but I didn't realize this until it was too late, is I wasn't at the hospital when you guys were born.
Mine too.
I was milking cows.
No. Roger was born at 9:30 and you didn't answer the phone because you went to bed sleeping.
Well, I went home to milk cows, and I was
You were supposed to come back.
I know. But I felt, the reason I didn't go back is because I felt you were in good hands at the hospital with all the
by
doctors and
myself.
nurses.
Ron, they don't stay in the room with you.
Well, I didn't know. I was young and naive. Nobody ever taught me that
And
stuff.
with John, you dropped me off at the hospital in the middle of the night and left. Because John was born a little after 2 a.m.
Oh,
What's your
Well, I
excuse
don't-
there?
I don't know. I don't even
Mhm.
remember. That's
You-
all I
you-
can
you-
say is sorry.
You certainly weren't the only husband who did that sort of thing back in those days.
We weren't allowed to go into the delivery room.
No, but you could have been in the room with me.
Yeah, until you went to the delivery room.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could have brought me some food. I kept trying to call you. I hadn't eaten
Yeah.
all day and I was starving.
Yeah. I brought you flowers
No, you didn't.
the next day. I know I didn't the first day, and you told me, "Where's your flowers? Where's my flowers?" So the next day I came, I got you flowers.
What are your happiest moments? Oh, you already said.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said getting married and having kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Should we move on?
And that's why we stopped at 2 kids, because I wasn't going to do it alone again.
You know, I just remembered one thing we didn't actually talk about was you having kids and some questions about John and I growing up. Oh, the whole section on children we actually didn't talk about.
Yeah.
I think let's see if we can hit some of those. But how did you choose the name Roger and John?
I can't remember.
Roger. Kenny Rogers.
Are you making that
Are
up?
you- yeah, you're making that up.
I don't know.
Okay, we'll skip over that
Yeah,
one if you don't
I
remember.
don't remember. All I remember is we fought over John's name. We knew it was going to be John, and then he wanted to have John Wayne and then John Deere. And I said no.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. What was really hard about being a parent?
My needing to work because we needed the money, trying to make sure you guys had proper daycare. My job basically only kept me even with the daycare expenses. But then because we needed the money, I took a part-time job at Highsmith, working from 4 p.m. to 8 o'clock. Dad had to feed you guys supper, take you and put you to bed and bathe and that stuff. And me being up in the middle of the night trying to keep up with laundry. Very stressful.
Yeah, quite a bit of you lose a lot of freedom when you have kids because now you have all these other
Absolutely.
responsibilities and expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess I was under a lot of stress.
Yeah. You actually carried the bigger burden on that.
Yeah. Yeah, because I trained myself, I'd start wash sometime like before I'd go to bed, and I somehow trained myself to get up in an hour and put it in the dryer and start another load. And
Yeah.
Yeah. What was hard for you, Dad?
Oh, well, working long hours, a lot of overtime, and not being with you guys. Yeah.
I know there was times I felt like a single parent.
Everything's a trade-off, you know. If you get a job where you don't work so much, you can spend more time with your family, but then you may not have the money to, barely get by.
Sure, sure. Were there any challenges with trying to figure out what the right course of action was in various circumstances? Because as kids grow up, their needs and change, and the things you would say or discipline a 2-year-old are different than a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and so on. And you have to ask yourself, is this a thing that I'm going to be a hard ass on, or am I going to let this thing go? And that's what I find is really challenging as a parent, is trying to make the right choice as a parent as to how it meets or doesn't meet the ultimate goal of having a kid who's a well-adjusted adult.
Yeah.
And it's hard to know what those choices are sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I think you're giving it a lot more thought than I did
And
when
me.
I was a young parent.
Well, we didn't
And-
have any, references, like with the internet. Like now I'll look up different things, but we didn't have that option.
No, I didn't even read a book on raising kids or nothing.
The only book I got was Dr. Spock. So yeah, we didn't have that privilege.
Mm-mm.
I wish we would have.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. I think maybe getting back to the general section, why don't you pick one of the bullet points off the general section that you would like to talk about? And just say what it is first before you start
Okay.
describing it.
What is the most important lessons you've learned in life? And I think my lesson is maybe to slow down a little more and do more thinking about, before you engage in conversations. And try to balance things out more and do things more like for each other.
Well, and
Be
I
more
put down that I
thoughtful.
should have taken more time for me. Because I think what made me angry was every now and then you would take off and go hunting, and you weren't at home with the kids, and
Yeah.
I was,
Yeah.
and I very seldom ever got away without you and John.
Except when I was working at Larson's, you did take a vacation up at a cabin with the kids and
But it was with the
Cheryl.
kids. I'm talking about I should have taken more time for me.
Or just you and not the kids.
Right.
Okay.
Like you took
Yeah.
time away from us and the
I
kids
see.
and went hunting with your friends.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. You should have done something with
I
your
should have done
friends.
something for myself.
Yeah, with a friend, with Carol or somebody.
Carol wouldn't go, I tried.
Yeah. I think, and you had talked about that, but then trying to come up with a friend that would go away with you for the weekend, like, who?
It was hard. And I should have just went by myself.
If you had had the time,
And
what
the
types
money.
of things would have been fun
I wanted to go to a dude ranch in the worst way.
to do? What?
The horseback riding, doing whatever, the experience of being on a ranch. It was something I wanted to do in the
Like
worst
something
way.
that would have been like out west.
Yes,
Okay.
but we never had the money to do it. I'm too old.
What do you like to do these days, Mom?
I've gotten real lazy. I like watching TV. I read when my eyeballs work good. I like making cards. I go to a stamp club once a month.
What kind of shows do you like on TV?
HGTV.
Home and Garden.
We watch the History Channel.
We watch the History, Discovery.
And there's nature shows.
Yeah, we tape all the Nova and nature shows that come up that are new, and we'll watch those.
And you watch a lot of old shows from when you were younger, like Bewitched. And
yeah, I like watching. I can't stand quiet. That's why I could never go off camping like you do, because I need background. Of course, my mother always did too. And I like having that stuff on because I know what's going to happen. And if I have to run out to the garage or run upstairs
You
or
don't
do
miss
something,
anything.
I don't miss anything. But at least there's somebody in the house with me.
Mm-hmm. So, what are some of those old shows that you watch besides Bewitched?
Hazel, Dennis the Menace, I like. Recently, I've added Facts of Life to it, but then a lot of times I'll end up switching to CNN, trying to see what is happening in the news.
Okay. And you volunteer
At the Help Center.
at the Help Center.
Yeah.
For needy people.
Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times people have put their arms around me, gave me a hug, and thanked me and us for being there for them. And that means a lot.
Yeah.
And recently I started going to the fort with your father to help him a little bit more there. So.
Oh, well, that's a good segue for you to talk about your hobbies these days, Dad.
Made a lot of friends at the fort. That'd be the Fort Lupton Historic Society. It's the old fur trading fort along the river. A lot of historians there that I like to visit with. And when we're working, we're usually talking and exchanging ideas and books that we've read. And and that's been a good pastime for me, as well as doing intarsia projects. And when I'm not doing that, I'm reading a book.
And several years ago, when you first moved to Colorado, you noticed there wasn't a 4-H club in the area.
Oh,
You
yeah.
started one, didn't
You
you?
started a 4-H club,
And
yeah.
you named it what?
Well, the Firestone Freethinkers.
That's right.
And I didn't get any slack on that, and it's still named that today, and it's still going. Although I'm not a general leader anymore, I am the woodworking leader, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I enter some of those projects up at the fair, and the kids that I help with woodworking, they have their projects up at the fair, so it's fun to see what they enter and what they make, and how much fun they have in learning how to do things. And they can take that learning process throughout life. You put your mind to something and go through the steps and see the outcome.
Well, and in January, the 4-H had in Greeley a program where you brought your,
Yeah, it was called 4-H Showcase.
yeah,
So all the clubs in the county come together up there, and the different projects are demonstrated. So me and Marty and our friends Doug and Susie, and he's a woodworking friend, and he's got 2 lathes for turning pans. I've got 1, so we took that all up there, plus the scroll saw, and we're demonstrating to the kids, and kids would sit down and make pans that they could take home, and they could sit down and make scroll saw projects to take home, little things. But they learn what can be done with, just introducing them to things.
Yeah, yeah. And you two like traveling. You have a big motor home right now. That's how long?
Oh, 37-foot Winnebago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we do enjoy traveling with that.
Yeah.
yeah, it's got 2 bathrooms, 3 TVs, of which we only use 2, and
And we just took out the couch last fall
put
that
in
you helped us with,
recliners.
and put in lazy boy recliners.
Right, right. Yeah, that's been quite a progression for you because you started out camping in a tent, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then a
Yeah.
small trailer, and then a medium-sized
yeah,
pull-behind trailer. And,
yeah. And then we had a pop-up in there too.
oh,
So we
yeah.
had a lot. We must have had 6 or 8 different camping.
Yeah, the one camper, we had that Palomino that had the expandable,
Yeah,
and because his back wasn't taken care of then, he would get so cold.
yeah.
Mm.
So, but we do enjoy traveling, and we like to, when we're traveling, we really want to learn about the history and the people and the cultures and the landscapes, and learn so much, learn everything there is to learn, and talk to people.
You like visiting museums in the area.
We do,
Yeah.
yeah. This past summer, we camped several times on an Indian reservation down by the Four Corners, and the Indians took us out and told us about their culture and their history,
Mhm.
and took us out and showed us the monuments out there, and it was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And every now and then, his navigator will screw up and we take a scenic route by accident. But
Yeah, I mean, how you plan trips has changed over the years. I remember in the 70s and 80s, you subscribed to AAA, right? And you would get these guidebooks. And you had
Yeah.
stacks of books, and you would go through that, and that's where you would figure out what to
Yeah.
visit, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then when the internet came about and I knew how to use that, we'd look up things on there. Right now, we've got a couple pages written down of things we want to do when we leave. We're actually leaving May 13th. I looked it up.
Okay. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know when I come to visit for holidays, Thanksgiving, you're sometimes playing music through the TV because I think one of the channels is music.
Mhm.
Do you ever listen to music at other times? Is that a normal thing?
Sometimes I do.
And was it the same type of thing? You would pick
Well-
something on the TV?
At the holidays, I pick secular Christmas music, but otherwise it's country western, the old country western.
But through the TV, it's one of the TV channels that plays that genre of music.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like the modern country music. And since we both like country music, it works out fine.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So other types of music you don't really listen to, I don't know, reggae, pop, rock and roll,
No.
the old stuff.
Mm-mm. No. One thing that kind of drives me crazy is she's got the TV on all day long, and I would just like to have it off and quiet and sit
It's
down
too
and
quiet for me.
read a book.
Mm.
It just I don't really like all that background noise, but she likes background noise.
My
So,
mother always had background
Yeah.
noise. Maybe I inherited it.
so
I've been thinking my next TV will probably have Bluetooth, and I imagine that I'll be able to watch television shows and have it just pipe it directly into my hearing aids, and then it's completely quiet for everyone else in the room. So
there you go,
I
Marty.
don't have hearing aids.
maybe
We'll
you
get
need
you
to
some.
get some hearing aids. I do that today with podcasts and NPR. I'm listening to them through my hearing aids, and it's perfectly quiet for everyone else in the room.
Yeah, I like to listen to NPR. I do that when I'm in the shop down in the basement working.
Well, and in the morning,
Yeah.
that's the first thing that goes on in our bedroom.
We wake up to NPR, and for the first hour of our waking day, we're listening to NPR while we're getting ready, showered and shaved,
And
and
especially
everything.
on Sunday morning, the radio's got to go on by 6:30 because there's that
The word game.
the word game and figure
Yeah.
out how stupid we are. Although I got the first one right today.
Yeah, this morning you did pretty good.
One time I think I actually got 2 out of I don't know how many questions they usually have.
Let's quickly talk about pets over the years. You've pretty much had dogs all the time, the entire time you've been together. Usually 1 or 2 dogs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're always medium-sized or bigger dogs. You've never had a small dog.
Well, when we first
Right,
got married, I
right.
brought my fox terrier with me.
Yeah,
Okay.
But since then, he's right. We've always had
Cocker
bigger dogs.
spaniels. What are
Yeah.
the different breeds you've had?
Yeah, Cocker Spaniel.
We had a cocker spaniel.
Billy Joel, remember?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was an
He was
annoying dog.
he was a barker. Well, he wanted to be with us, Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the problem there was you would bring some dogs home without us talking about
But
it.
but that Cocker Spaniel we bought. He was a good breed, a good pedigree.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And you've had a Doberman Pinscher,
Mhm.
and then Flame was a
Chesapeake Bay Retriever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a puppy from Rick Ruse.
Mm. Okay.
And then you were doing a job up in Green Lake County when you found Ayla,
Yeah.
and you exchanged some work for her,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where John D came from.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there's been a couple of cats over the years. There was a black and white cat named
That was
Diamond.
yours.
Okay, yeah, probably because I asked for it, right? I
Mhm.
wanted the cat.
Yeah.
And then,
And I liked that cat.
yeah, the cat
Mhm.
disappeared one day,
Yeah.
perhaps to a fox or a coyote or something, right?
Yeah.
We're not sure.
It was a free-ranging cat.
Right,
so,
outside cat.
Yeah.
And then there was another cat we just called Kitty. And then that's it in terms of cats and pets. You never had lizards or pet.
Oh God.
Oh,
no.
rabbits. Well, I
Those
had,
were yours.
You
no,
had
that's true.
rabbits?
But when you were a kid, you had some rabbits.
I brought one home in a Frito-Lay truck in a box.
Yeah.
Remember?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That white one.
Yeah. I brought this potato chip case
Was that Snowball?
in the house,
No,
and
that was the goose.
I set it down in the corner, and I said, "Roger, go take a look in that box." Remember? You opened it up, and here's a bunny rabbit.
Yeah.
But I think what a fun pet was when we had that goose on the farm.
Oh, Snowball the goose.
Snowball the goose.
That was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
You taught a couple of Canada geese how to fly.
Yep.
Yeah, that was about 20 years or so ago.
Oh yeah,
Vinny
we were
Haha.
Vinny Haha.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got a couple of little goslings somehow.
Little goslings. I found them at Fair Meadows,
Mhm.
wandering around in the woods. So I brought them home, and yeah, they were so much fun. Oh, when they got a little bigger, I came home and I walked up in the backyard, and I could hear Marty talking and yelling at somebody, and she was
that
out
was
back
the
there.
Snowball the goose I yelled at.
Well, you were picking raspberries, and the geese were with you.
And they
And-
watched me pick raspberries for, I don't know, maybe half an hour. And all of a sudden they were black raspberries, right?
Yeah, wild black
And all of a
raspberries.
sudden they started going for the black ones after watching me pick.
So apparently they could tell colors. 'Cause they
And,
knew
and
the
their
black
lips
ones.
and their chest was all purple.
Yeah, yeah,
And Ron
yeah,
asked what happened to the geese.
yeah. And then we'd lay on the lawn back there, and they'd crawl over us and pick on my buttons. Anything that was shiny, they'd nibble on.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly we quit feeding them so much. We started cutting their food way back because they needed to learn to be wild.
Yeah. Well, actually, I just kept feeding them, and they'd on July 10th they got big enough where they actually flew away. About a week before that, they started to learn how to fly,
Mm.
and then the 10th they were gone.
Elizabeth Rouse got scared by them because she was jogging back then
Yeah.
and she was running down Minnehaha and she could tell something was following her. So she turned around and looked, and here's the two geese
Yeah.
following
Yeah,
her.
they were flying.
They were flying.
They flew. Yeah, they flew right past her from behind.
Mhm.
Mm.
They were.
So I know we're coming up close on time because I have a thing to get to, but there was another question I wanted to sneak in here, which was your favorite food. So if you had like one last meal and you could request any kind of meal for your last meal, what would you pick?
Oh.
Dark chocolate, my mom's fried chicken, and the least favorite is peas. Don't you ever serve me peas.
I think I'd pick a T-bone steak.
Ah.
Yeah, I'd rather have chicken.
That first bite of steak is so good.
Done how?
About medium,
Yeah.
medium to not real rare, but yeah, medium.
Sounds delicious. All right. Anything else?
Well, one of your questions here was how we would like to see our grandkids, or
Mhm.
I can't remember the question.
Yeah. What are your hopes for Shantae, Roz, and Sky?
That they have a great life and be successful, and
Successful and happy.
yeah,
Happy is the important thing.
yeah.
Not rich.
Well,
Rich,
successful is
yeah. Well, you got to have enough money to provide you with everything that you need and some wants
Mm-hmm.
to enable to be happy. It's hard to be happy if you're hungry. But I read something or heard something on NPR that there's a point where if you have more money beyond this, you're really not that much happier. In fact, it could go down the other way.
There was some kind of a show on TV a few years ago about happiness.
Yeah, there's a movie on the happiest country in the world or happiest
Yeah,
people.
they went
It's
around
just,
interviewing
yeah,
people.
it turns out Denmark is the happiest people.
Yeah.
Mm.
The movie is called Happy.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, we kind of covered most things.
Okay.
You asked about a favorite trip. I've liked all of our trips.
Most memorable was probably Thailand and China, or not China,
Japan.
Japan.
And you were able to do that with the assistance of some foreign exchange students
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
were from those countries
Yeah.
that ended up guiding you on
They
those
hosted
travels.
us, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I think this has been really interesting, informative. And
Thank you for doing this.
Yes,
Well,
I know you put in a lot of work.
Yes, you're you had a lot of work to do.
And
Okay.
tomorrow is your first day at a new job.
I start a new job tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yes, I
yeah.
do. Yeah,
you
software
ex-
architect at Aspire.
Yeah, and you'll be working from home most of the
Working
time.
from home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Good. Well, we wish you well on that new adventure for you and your life.
All right. Well, thank you.
One-
And thank you for sitting down and sharing your thoughts and memories. This has been great.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a wrap.
Okay. Very good.
And now you've got 4 minutes to figure out how to transfer video.